Welcome to Spiritual Steps, a podcast about learning to pray, listen, and grow by taking small steps on the spiritual journey. I'm your host, Stephen Hovatter, and this is episode 12, Crafting a Prayer Routine. And in this episode, I want to encourage you to start building a routine that can help you sustain a life of prayer. Now, prayer is one of those things that so many people of faith aspire to, and they always have in the back of their minds that they want to be something, to be a person of prayer, to be a person who prays regularly. They want that to be a part of their life. Sometimes it's because they have some understanding of the formative benefit of prayer, and sometimes it's simply because we kind of understand it to be a pious requirement that we need to fulfill in order to keep God happy with us. And we're not going to dive too much into the theology of all that. I would hope it was for you. It is more the former of those reasons. But I just want to say that, most of us in the church, most of us would have some kind of understanding that we need to pray more. I mean, that's just kind of built into our DNA as Christians, that this is something that's part of our life. And it probably should be maybe more of almost all of our lives in some way. Who in the church is there sitting thinking to themselves, well, I really probably pray too much. Nobody's thinking that. Nobody says to themselves that. It's one of these things that's just in the air and about our identities that we all desire for good reasons and maybe some bad ones. We desire to be people who are invested in prayer. The problem is that we just don't really know how to do it, and we don't really know where to start. It's not really a matter of us theologically thinking that prayer is important. I think most of the time it's the real issue is that we haven't built the kinds of routines and habits and just kind of patterns of life that would develop prayer more deeply into our lives, that would really ingrain it and thread it into who we are. And so I just want to say a little bit about my own journey with that. I'm a person, I work in ministry, and I find it hard to pray sometimes, right? I find it, I don't know. It's not like I lack for words. Nobody that knows me would say that. And in fact, I'm very fine with those kinds of prayers that are just silent and listening, even though I do get kind of anxious and impatient sometimes. But sometimes my life just gets to the point where there is so much to do, or maybe not so much to do, but certain kinds of things to do that draw me out. And I don't really want to do the kind of slowing down work that prayer really requires. And so for me, what's been important in my life is not just to desire prayer. I mean, it's always something that I've wanted to be about. What's been important to me is to build the sorts of things into my life that not just force is too strong a word, right? That kind of guide me into praying. And this is something that we recognize in other parts of our lives, right? That you understand that there are certain things that that you do in certain parts of your life, certain rituals that you kind of perform to kind of get you ready for something, right? Certain people when they're getting ready to do public speaking, they kind of go through some vocal exercises themselves, or people that are musical performers, they might do that, or athletes, have you ever seen it's baseball season, it's opening week, right? And so you ever watch somebody in the on deck circle, right? Or as they get ready to step in the batter's box, there's all these crazy routines, right? Well, why is that? Well, partly it's because going through that muscle movement, okay, working through the muscle memory of what those little actions and routines are, they help you prepare to do the act itself, the big thing. And there's other ways that I think that's true too, right? There are things that just kind of get you in the mood. They get you in the right kind of frame of mind to carry out certain kinds of actions or to perform certain things. And prayer to me is a part of my life that I need that in. Okay, it's hard for me to just go from work, or just running around or just driving, whatever it is. It's hard for me to just go stop and then to pray. I think for me, the absolute worst time to have a time of prayer would be at the, the 10 minutes after bedtime for my kids. When we've got 4 kids and we go through all the craziness that is trying to get everybody bathed and their teeth brushed and everybody in bed at the right hour at the right time. And there's always somebody that needs another cup or needs to go potty or has to has a sudden revelation that they had homework there in the moments before bedtime. It's like, and I usually get done with that and I'm like kind of frazzled. And it would be just madness for me to take that 10 minutes after everybody gets done with bedtime and then to say, okay, now it's my prayer time. I'm just going to flip that switch, okay? Or maybe not. Maybe if I built in the right kinds of things, then it would be good, right? Like the certain kind of on-ramp that helps you get into the sort of flow of mind. Because it's really, any point of the day, that's like a particularly crazy time for me. But, really all through the day, there are times like this that it would be hard for us to just kind of drop the craziness of our world and kind of enter into this moment of prayer. And I do think that there's a little bit of a fallacy there on 2 points. First is that we drop what's happening in the world because ideally we want to be able to more accurately, mindfully take what is happening and what we're experiencing in the world and call to mind all those things before God. And secondly, not only that, it's if I was just waiting for like the perfect time of my day that would inspire me to prayer, it just wouldn't happen. Okay, so instead of waiting for that perfect time where I can kind of escape the ethereal world or move to the ethereal world, and pray, really what I need to build the kind of ritual, craft the kind of routine that can help me onboard myself into the mind frame of prayer. And so what I've done in my life is I've crafted something that's kind of like a little ritual for me. Okay, it's not kind of like a ritual. There's no like bloody sword or anything like that. But it is it's just a little bit of motion, a little bit of habit that performed in the right kind of sequence just lets my mind and body and soul know that I am moving to a place of prayer. And what it looks like for me is I come to a place and I sit and I make sure that it's a quiet place, or I put on some headphones with some white noise sometimes. I use the Sleep Pillow app for that. And what I'll do is I'll try to still myself for just 5 or 10 seconds, and then I read. And right now, what I'm reading, I've mentioned before, is I'm reading the works of John of the Cross. And what that allows me to do, and really I don't know that it really matters what you're reading. There are a lot of different things out there, but in a lot of the old classic authors, they write in these like small sections, these small chapters, that are only like a page and a half. So when I read, I just read, maybe 2 pages of John's writing. It's going to take me forever to read the book, but that's not the point, right? Like what I'm really trying to do is I'm trying to have a little bit of reading there that puts a buffer between my normal routine and this time of prayer. So, if I just sit down and start praying, my mind is going to be all over the place. It's going to wander, okay? And usually when I start to read, it still does that. Like I often have to read like the first paragraph like a couple of different times, right? But by the time I've read through about 2 pages, then I'm collected and I'm ready. And so then what I do is I just have, I close my eyes and I just rest. And I try to let my mind and body just kind of call to mind all the different things that are happening in my world, and I offer those to God. And I ask for God's presence to be with me in that time of prayer, and I just kind of bring these things to the Lord. Is the way I think about this time of prayer at first, and then I'll just have some more time of silence, and I'll just sit and I'll just receive, just try to listen to God. I try to meditate a little bit about what's happening, about places, things that I'm going to do during the day, and what God, how God might want me to act, and what God might want me to do through the day. And I just try to have that still, quiet prayer time like this, and this whole movement for me is only just a few minutes long, okay? From the time that I stop reading until that I'm done praying there, usually, it lasts me maybe 10 minutes or something like that. But I find that having that little bit of routine, the sitting down, the collecting, the quiet, the reading, the silence, and then the prayer, and then some more silence and a little bit more prayer, like I find that routine, that just sequence of events helps me move from franticness and anxiety and concern. It helps me move towards a state of prayerful mindfulness for the world and what my role in the world is, and what the Spirit might be leading me to do in the world as I try to join God's plan and mission. And so that's what this looks like for me, okay? And what I want to encourage you to do, okay, is to not just think about prayer as some like magical switch that you just turn on and off, but think about what are those steps that you do to kind of walk towards a time of prayer. Okay, like what are those things that help you kind of onboard yourself, that like the on-ramp that leads you into a time of prayer. And I want to just mention 2 or 3 things about this, okay, or 3 things about it that I think are very helpful really quickly. And the first one is that it needs to be easily repeatable, okay, something that you could do every day, okay, just for a little bit. Secondly, it needs to be something that's sustainable. Okay, like don't think of your prayer routine as, in the beginning, it's being something that takes, the first 2 hours of your day as you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Like, no way, man. All right, you need to take something that can be a sustainable part of your day. So maybe it's just 10 minutes, maybe it's just 15 minutes, okay? But it's something that you can do. Like you can mark it off, you can make it work, okay? So it needs to be repeatable and it needs to be sustainable. And then third, don't try to force yourself to feel certain things in it, okay? What you're building is the routine, not a bullseye, a targeted experience, emotional experience each time. So what you want to do is as you craft a prayer routine is don't judge it by the what you feel as you do it. Give it time, okay? And I'd say don't judge it all in the beginning. Give it time and see if the prayer routine leads you to a more faithful practice of prayer. And that's something you may only know for after a few months or a few weeks, okay? And then you can adjust it and do it a little bit differently. Okay, that's it for this episode of Spiritual Steps. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next week.